Happy Father's Day to all the fathers here in the house. Is it okay if we start with prayer this morning? All right, great. God, I just thank you for this morning, and I thank you for the opportunity that we can be here in your house. God, I pray that we feel your presence this morning, we feel your love, and that we know that you are here. I pray that we focus our hearts upon you this morning as we worship and we learn more about what your word says. And I just pray a special blessing over every home here, every dad here, God, but they would just know who they are in you. God, we love you in this place. We worship you in this place. And in the name of Jesus, we gather in this place. In the name of Jesus, amen. Amen, church. Well, if you are able to stand this morning, if you would go ahead and stand with us. It says in Psalm 22:25, from you comes the theme of my praise.
walk in and from the rain, I want to read you the scripture pertaining to this song we just sang. It says this: In 1 Chronicles 16 it says, splendor and majesty are before him, strength and joy are in his dwelling place. So as we come into this place, strength and joy are in this place today. Amen? Amen. So if you're here and you are feeling weak, we understand that joy or that strength is here. If you are looking for strength and power to get through whatever you're trying to get through, this is the place to be. If you're looking for a place to find joy, this is the place to be, because God dwells here, and it says, splendor and majesty are before him, strength and joy are in his dwelling place. We are here for strength and joy today. God has that for you. We are glad you are here. Real quickly, we're going to say Happy Father's Day, and we're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but we are thankful for all of our dads today, and we are just excited that you're here to worship with us today. Let's pray as we continue on. God, we are so thankful for how good you are to us. We pray that you would bring in strength and that you would bring in joy into your dwelling place today. God, we thank you for your love for us. We thank you for your goodness. We ask you to bless us as we continue to worship. We honor you. It's in Jesus' name we pray, and all God's people said, Amen. Amen. Let's continue in worship.
Psalm 18:30 says, as for God, his way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless, and he shields all those who take refuge in him. God, we come and we take refuge in you this morning, for you are good. Oh, I stand before you now in the greatness of your renown. I have heard of the majesty loves us so much. And I don't know if you feel that way today, if you just feel like wave after wave has been crashing over you. But I just want to assure to you this morning that God is faithful and that he loves you so much, and he is just waiting to meet with you. And he has got this. God, we trust in you in this place. I thank you that you are a trustworthy God. I thank you that you are a God that not just sits on a throne, God, but that you love each and every one of us. And I thank you for the veil of Jesus being torn so we can commune with you, God. I thank you for your protection in this place, Lord. And I pray that your glory fills this place, Lord. We love you in this place, God. And we are just here to worship you and cherish you today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. My hope just sing it to you, Lord. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. Set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain and I can't control. I want more of you, God. I want more of you, God. We want you, Lord. More and more and more of you, Lord. Let that be the cry of our heart today. The hunger of us this morning, Lord, that we want to know our Almighty Father more and more. And God, I thank you for the Holy Spirit fire that you're placing in each and every one of us, Lord. God, sometimes our lights feel so dim, and the storms of life just continue to crash over us like the waves of the ocean. But God, you are an awesome Father, and we are so glad to be in this place this morning to worship you and to draw closer to you. We thank you for this time of praise. We thank you for all that you're doing in our lives right now, God. And we love you in this place. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. You guys may be seated this morning in his presence.
Good morning again. We are going to celebrate Father's Day here in a second, but before we do that, I'm going to have Bench Laker come up. He wants to share a few words with us. He called, left a message on my phone this week and asked if he could share a few words with the church here real quick. We're going to give you this so if people online can listen too.
Thank you, Pastor. This week has been kind of an up and down week for me. Past Tuesday, celebrated the 1-year anniversary of losing my wife. Having been married for nearly 60 years, you can probably imagine what a loss that was to me. I love this woman dearly. She was there for me, and I miss her just greatly. There were times in this past year that I wasn't sure whether I wanted to get up, whether I wanted to just let go. But through your love, kindness, and gentle hugs and handshakes and prayers, I made it through. Amen. Pastor Tim was with me when Judy died. He's been my strength. If I get feeling really down, call him PT, I need help. He's there to help me. As are all of you. I love you. You are my strength. Keeps me going. Without you, I don't know if I'd made it. So keep the prayers going, because this is just the beginning. And I need your prayers. I need your love, your handshakes, and your hugs. So thank you very much for all you do for me. I love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, man. We serve a mighty God, and God has blessed us with a congregation of those who love him and love people, and there's great compassion. So we are very thankful for everyone who has poured out support and love for men over this past year. Also, as we are here today, we are here to celebrate our God and to honor him, but today it's a Father's Day, and so we are going to celebrate and honor our dads with a special gift. Hey, Lulu. Not yet. we have been in the past few years, we've done Country Bob's steak sauce and barbecue sauces, but with the craziness of our life, I kind of forgot to order it. So we are doing a similar thing with barbecue sauces today and giving out gifts. Lindsay was kind of inspired us. Lindsay posted a picture from the wedding of Justin and Mia's wedding, and it said, "My A1s from day one." Her number one, her friends, and that was her family, and we were thinking about A1 sauce, and we thought we'll keep the sauce theme going. So you're our A1s, Dad, from day one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna invite dads to come up and grab a bottle of barbecue sauce. There's all kinds of assortment here. There's hot, there's mild, there's sweet, there's even a couple sugar-free if you need that. But we're gonna start. If we're on the side aisles and you're here with your dad, go ahead and bring them up and grab a sauce. If you're here and you don't have a kid and would like to have a kid bring you up, raise your hand and we will let you adopt a kid for the time being. So side aisles, if you want to come up with your dad, bring them on up. And if you're in the middle and don't have and you're one of the kids, why don't you grab somebody that looks like they need to come up. I knew getting an assortment was going to be hard. Yeah, that's. All right, middle row. Why don't you bring the dads up? Did you get your kid back? You look like a hot one. How you doing, buddy?
What kind you like? I like it. Spicy. Oh, yeah.
Somebody want to grab Dave Veal? No. Jared will. Thank you. Yeah, I got you taken care of there. Good morning. Good morning, Father's Day. That's fine. Yep.
Well, one's in Rockford, one's in Texas.
And if your dad's not here, kids, you can come up and grab one for your dad too. Don't worry about that. You can grab one for your dad. All right, did all the dads get something? Kids, if you're a kid here and your dad, you want to pick one up for your dad afterwards, you can do that too. So what we want to do is we want to pray for our dads and all the grandpas, and we'll ask God's blessing upon everyone. Let's pray. God, we are so thankful for our dads. God, we are thankful that we can honor them with a little gift of barbecue sauce. And God, they mean so much more to us, but as we look through all of our different representatives here of our sauce. We have sweet sauce, we have spicy sauce, we have just all kinds of, and that's what our dads represent too. We have sweet, we have spicy, we have all kinds. And God, we're thankful for them. And God, we just ask you to bless them. Let them know how much they're loved. We give you praise for how good you are to us, God. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, good morning, New Life. Good morning. It's good to be back. When you're gone for like 2 weeks, it's crazy how like that feels like everything changed. It's weird. But so it's good to be back. We're going to continue this in a time of tithes and worship and tithes and offering. So if the gatekeepers might come forward. Like I said, I was gone for 2 weeks. We got married. We're happy, right? I don't know how to. I'm just excited. I'm excited to be here. God's good. We're going to continue this time of worship with our tithes and offerings. All right, if you want to pray with me. God, we just thank you so much for this day. We thank you that we get to be here together as a family. We thank you for each of the fathers, God, that are here today. We just pray you just bless them and just give them a peaceful day. And we just thank you that you're the best father. You're a good father, God. We just thank you so much for your love for us and we can call children of God. We thank you for this time that we get to just give back to you a little bit of what you've given us in this tithes and offerings, God. We pray you just bless the offerings and the tithes, God, multiply them and that we expand your kingdom. We just thank you for your goodness and your love for us, God. We love you so much. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Revitalizing a major metro area like Detroit's takes time. While you will see beautiful remodeled homes in some neighborhoods, others only offer dilapidated buildings, piles of trash, and empty streets. Still recovering from its 2013 bankruptcy, this city built for nearly 2 million residents now has less than 700,000. In the Motown area showing signs of life, you'll likely find this man as a literal driving force. Pastor Matt Cripps of Metro Life Church wants these pockets of life to grow in the right way. That's why he and his team of bus drivers head to inner city neighborhoods known for drugs, violence, and gangs to show kids a different way of life.
At Metro Life Church, they call their fleet of 10 buses soul-winning machines. They travel throughout the Detroit area, picking up children to be a part of the Good News Gang.
Good morning. What's up, John? What's up, young lady? How are you? What's up, sweet lady? You can't smile? There you go. All right.
It often takes a little prodding to get kids out and on the bus, especially on a cool, rainy Saturday morning. But to this pastor and his volunteers, it's definitely worth it.
We want to see their lives radically transformed by the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And throughout the week, we're knocking on their doors. We're praying with their families. We're inviting them to Good News Gang. And most importantly, we're establishing relationship. That's the most important thing, is that they see Jesus in us. Because for most of them, for most of these children, we're the only Jesus they'll ever know.
Alright, so that is the Good News Gang. In our Next Level Youth Ministry, we'll be actually going there this summer to do a vacation Bible school. So they do the Good News Gang every Saturday. And they've been doing that for, I think, over 20 or 30 years. Every Saturday, they do the bus ministry and go pick up kids and then bring them back to their church and then do kind of like what our Kids Zone does. And this summer, our youth group is going to go and be a part of their vacation Bible school and help lead that. So if you're interested in our students, if you're in middle school or high school, we have our the forms, the mission trip forms. They're out on the table out there, or you can come talk to me and Mia or myself. But we have the forms, they're available. We also need adult leaders So maybe if you're in college and you're like back for the summer and you want to come back and go lead, or if you're an adult and you want to come help and go be a part of the Good News Game and do the VBS with our Next Level Youth, see me and Mia or myself, and we can give you an application, and we'll need some help for that. But our summer's just packed full of stuff for Next Level and for Kids Zone. So be on the lookout in your bulletins for all the stuff going on, and then just all the other stuff too. My beautiful wife's gonna come up and talk a little bit about the Kids Zone stuff coming up. But right now, just check your bulletins, look for all the stuff going on, and then Next Level kids come to the Good News Game. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Alright, so hi, good to see you guys. We're glad to be back. That's kind of weird, like being gone and then coming back, like, oh, I missed everybody. But so we have a really big summer coming up for Next Level and also for our kids ministry called Kids Zone. And I don't know if you can put up the VBS graphic. If you've seen this, we posted on Facebook. If you're not on our Facebook page, you can go look for Kids Zone Facebook. We also post on the New Life page a lot from Kids Zone. So if you want to look at the New Life page, we'll all be posting a lot about it. But it's July 8th through the 12th, and it's going to be in the mornings from 9 to 11:30 a.m. And it's 4 years to 5th grade. And the theme is South America. So last year we did Africa, and we're doing another continent. So we're doing South America, and we're really excited about it. So if you're interested in helping out, if you want to volunteer, we are going to have a volunteer meeting next Sunday after the second service. If you're interested in helping with Vacation Bible School, or if you're interested in helping with Sunday mornings. We always need more volunteers for Sunday mornings for the nursery or for the preschool. Or so if you're interested and you're like, oh, I love working in the nursery, or I love working with preschoolers, just let us know and you can come talk to me and you can apply for that. And next Sunday after second service, we'll have a meeting. All right. Okay.
And there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong.
So is there anybody that would like to do Sunshine Jar? Anyone? I will do it. How about we pray? God, we are so thankful for how good you are to us. We're thankful for this time where our kids take up their Sunshine Jar offering and God, all that the children that have been impacted and ministered to from this little white bucket. God, we ask you to bless all those children and bless the ministries that will be blessed through this time. We thank you for how good you are to us. We ask you to bless the kids that they give. In Jesus' name, amen. Ready for the Sunshine Jar. I love mornings like this. I love being here. I love what God is doing, and I love seeing our kids excited, and I love seeing barbecue sauce flying off the shelves. It's my grocery side. But we are happy you're here. We're celebrating Father's Day 2019, and today is an interesting Father's Day for me, for our family. Ashley, we've talked about Ashley as she is going off to the world race. We probably talked a lot about her, so bear with us, but it's a big deal. She's like our church's personal missionary this year. She flew with her group to Nicaragua last night. I think they got there early this morning. So this Father's Day is great, knowing that I love all my kids, but we're celebrating the fact that Ashley has started her journey and her 11-month journey, and it started last night. So just keep praying for her and all of her information Andrea Clausen asked me to put it in the bulletin, so we put all the websites and different things on that you can follow her journey on the bulletin today. You can check that out. But today is Father's Day 2019. It's a day to celebrate dads and to show appreciation and encourage them for all that they've done for us in our lives. I come from a situation where I have to be honest, I am very blessed. My dad took great care of us. I have very little to complain about. He had a strong hand and a very strong will that I grew up with, so I learned how to function around him. As he became a grandpa, I saw him mellow. Mellow. It's like, what happened to this guy? Who is he? And the thing comes is, I understand now as being a grandpa. I'm a better grandpa than dad. As we think about this, today might be hard for some. As a lot of us here are celebrating our dads and enjoying, we'll enjoy dinner with them later today or time with them. We celebrate our dads, but some it might be difficult. Maybe you're in a situation where your dad wasn't that guy. Maybe you're in a situation where you didn't have good memories of your dad, or you have some bad memories. Today is definitely a tough day for some of you. Some of you are here and maybe you've lost your dad. Your dad has died and you're missing your dad. And that's understandable too, and we'll be praying about that today too. But I encourage you to take time to remember the good things about your dads today and to honor them the best you can. Today we're going to take time to learn about what makes us better dads. And not only when we have special days like this, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, I don't like just to pinpoint dads or moms, but this sermon today is for dads, but it's also for the entire congregation. It's for all of us to make us better followers of Jesus Christ. Today we're going to talk about something that I feel is something I need to work on, and I try to. And my kids are probably going to laugh when they hear what I'm going to talk about. But today we're going to talk about compassion. My kids are teaching, praise God. We're going to talk about compassion. And I have to admit that I have much more compassion now in some things being a grandfather than I did in being a dad. But it's a fault that I'm working on, and I'm going to continue to work on as I grow older. But as we think about compassion, we must look and think about where compassion comes from and how we define what compassion is. And the best way to do that is, if you want to turn, just listen, it'll be up here over my head. In 2 Corinthians 1, verses 3 and 4, it kind of lays out what compassion is. It says, "Praise be to the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all of our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God." As we just read this, here we see a scripture that puts a great emphasis on the compassion of God. It talks about our God being a compassionate God. And the problem is, a lot of people don't see God as compassionate, especially non-believers. Non-believers look at God and see him as a wrathful God. They see him as a vengeful God. They see him of a God of destruction. They see him as a God. How many times have you heard this? I can't walk into a church because if I do, the lightning will strike the church and the building and everybody in it. I've heard that. It's one of those things I hear over and over and over again. And I want to look at him and say, no, it won't. If it does, the enemy was in charge of that, not God. God is a God of compassion. God is a God of love. And it tells us here that God is a God of compassion and comfort. He comforts us when we are in need of encouragement. Comfort is a tough thing to do. We are a people that you either have that compassion and that comfort or you're working on it. Because if you grew up like I did, my dad would say stuff like this. I don't remember the exact words because he's used so many, but like, suck it up. Stop it. Why are you crying? Dad, I'm 8 and I fell. Okay, get over it. Dad has been worked on. Dad is a compassionate man. But some of us go through life like that, and I tend to be that way too at times, where you just don't have that understanding of the goodness of compassion and comfort. And we need to understand that God is a God of compassion and a God of comfort. He comforts us in times of trouble. He comforts us when we're struggling. And a lot of times it's hard as humans to be that person. And the good news is we have our Heavenly Father that we can go to if we don't have that person of compassion and comfort in our lives. And a lot of people miss out on that, and they struggle. He comforts us when we're in trouble. He comforts us when in compassion when we are struggling. And we have to understand that that is who our God is a God of comfort and compassion. But the scripture doesn't stop there. It continues on and talks about when we receive that compassion, when we receive that comfort, what are we supposed to do? Just take it in and receive it and say, thank you, God. Yeah, we're supposed to do that, but there's more to it. Amen. We receive his comfort and compassion to give his comfort and his compassion. And that's hard sometimes. It's not a one-way street where we just take. God gives, but we're supposed to give it away. And when we give it away, give that compassion, that comfort away, what does that do? It glorifies him and brings him glory. And that's our goal. A lot of people love to sit and soak in the compassion of God. You know those kind of people? I know those kind of people. They love to sit in and go, God is a God of compassion. He loves me. He loves me. He loves you. God is a God of compassion. He loves you, and I'm going to show you compassion. We miss out on that. And we fall into that trap. Check out a person in the Bible here who is willing to accept compassion, but not willing or very eager to give it. I want you to turn in your Bibles with me. If you turn to Jonah 4 in your paper Bibles or on your phone or whatever you're carrying with you today, it'll also be over here in my head here in a little bit. Don't put it up yet because it's not ready. In Jonah 4, we're going to look there and we're going to read about the story a little bit of Jonah, but give you a little bit of background. A lot of us know the story, but some of us might be not real up to date on all of it, but so we're going to share a little bit about it. Familiar story, but Jonah, he was an Israelite, and he was one of the ones who knew God and was chosen by God. He was told to go to Nineveh to tell the people there to turn away from their wicked ways and to trust in one true God. And what happened was this: Jonah hated them. Jonah wanted nothing to do with them. He did not like them. He did not want to go. He did not want to be there around them. And he actually cried out to God and he says, these people are awful. They are awful, 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 awful people. And I want nothing to do with them. They are wicked and they do wicked things. Things that I don't even want to associate or be around. And they are a lost cause, God, so why would you send me there? And they probably smell bad too. He didn't say that, but I'm sure he thought it. Because all these things going through his mind, but God told him to go there and to tell them to preach, and he was to preach against what they were doing. And Jonah turned to God and said, nope, not going to do it. I'm out of here. So he got in a boat and he started to sail to Tarshish. And well, he got on the boat and things didn't go well. There was bad storms, there was bad things happening. And as it was not going well, Jonah went to the ship's crew and said, throw me overboard. I'm the reason this is all happening. Throw me overboard, let me die, and keep going, and you're going to be fine. And they said, no, we're fine. They just kept going. What happened is it got worse. And as it got worse and worse, they looked at him and said, okay, dude, you're out. And they threw him overboard. I'm not sure they exactly said that. That's the Tim version. Or close enough. Jonah went into the sea, and he got swallowed by a big fish. And he spent some time in this big fish, and the big fish spit him out after a while, after Jonah dealt with God, and God dealt with him. So here we have Jonah being spit or thrown up or puked out onto land. So Jonah went and did what God told him to do. He went to Nineveh, and he got there, and Jonah told them what to do to avoid God's wrath. And they turned from their ways. And then we see in Jonah 3:10, it says this: when God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he had compassion and did not bring upon them destruction he had threatened. So now all of a sudden, here's what we have. Jonah hates these people, hates their wicked ways, doesn't want anything to do with them. God says, go see them. He says, no. He gets there, and he tells them what they're supposed to do. And guess what? They did exactly what Jonah said they were supposed to do. What God instructed Jonah to say, they did. And God had compassion on them, and they turned from their evil ways. Wow, we should be given a hand clap, right? Jonah should be like, woohoo, I'm a winner. What happens in chapter 4? We get there. Turn with me there. We read that. If you got to say got it, PT. It says Jonah 4, 1 through 11. It says this: but Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord, O Lord, is this not what I said when I was still at home? That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. But the Lord replied, have you any right to be angry? Jonah went out and sat down at a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a vine and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the vine. He loved that vine. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that chewed the vine so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, it would be better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, do you have the right to be angry about the vine? I do, he said. I am angry enough to die. But the Lord said, you have been concerned about this vine, though you did not tend to it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many cattle as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city? Here we see some amazing stuff happening in a short 11 verses. Here we see Jonah do something great. He got done, and the city turned and did exactly what he said he wanted them to do. But he was mad. He was mad. It'd be like preaching that in front of the entire Winnebago population and saying, turn from your evil ways and come to the Lord and make Jesus your Savior. And everybody did, and I would be mad. That's what was going on. You go, that sounds ridiculous, but listen, it gets better. He still hated Nineveh, and he hated the people there. He was upset that God showed compassion on them instead of destroying the evil empire. He didn't want them to be saved. He wanted them to be destroyed. Jonah was so caught up in himself, in the way he was going, in the hatred for those people, that he forgot that God had great compassion on them. So God gave him an illustration. Jonah went away to pout, and God provided a miracle plant that grew and provided shade for him in a hot time, in a very hot day. Jonah loved that plant and rejoiced because of it. And the next day, God provided a worm that ate the plant and made it destroyed. Jonah was mad again. He was mad and sad about his plant and angry. And God saw this and explained to Jonah that he had more compassion for the plant than he did for a whole town of 120,000 people. Real people. Let that sink in for a second. How many of us fall into that trap? We have compassion on some things, but forget about the people around us that matter to God. As on Friday, Shelly and I had an unexpected trip up to Madison that we had to make, and we got in the car and flew up to Madison and got to Madison, and we had a real life example put in front of us of this. We got there and we got stuck in the morning traffic, and we were in a stoplight. And we were stuck at the stoplight, and it was directly in front of an animal hospital. Animal hospital was off to our right, directly there. And there's all kinds of construction going on, so we were stuck in traffic there for a little bit longer than just one light. As we sat at this light, I noticed a couple walking out of this animal clinic. They walked out of this animal clinic, young couple, probably in their 20s, maybe early 30s. They walked out, and I noticed that the man had a blanket in his hand. And the wife's face was puffy and red. As we were sitting there at the stoplight, we watched this couple walk to their car. We watched the man open the door, he put the blanket in the back seat, and he closed the door, and there was a great embrace. And a lot of ugly tears. Ugly crying, that happened. And as we were sitting there, we put together what just happened. This couple just put down one of their beloved pets. This couple just lost something that they dearly loved. And Shelly and I sat there, and we looked at each other, and tears are running down our face. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm wiping the tears from my eyes, and I look at the SUV in front of me because there's traffic, and in the rear view, in the side mirror of the driver's side of the SU3 in front of me was a man a little older than me, apparently, it looked like, with his glasses up, wiping his eyes. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and we're wiping our eyes because he caught what I caught. And as we sat there, we had great compassion on this young couple. That's good and fine, because what does Scripture say in Romans 12? It says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. But God showed me something there. God showed us as we talked more about it, and as we came into this sermon for this week, and Shelly and I discussed the sermon because she helped me this week with the sermon. And as we talked about this, I thought about this. When I drove into Madison, my compassion level was not near what it was after I saw that couple that just put down their dog. My compassion for Madison wasn't that there was unsafe people in that town. I wasn't weeping for the loss in that major city as I drove in. And I thought about even smaller. I don't drive into my towns and weep over those who are lost on a daily basis. I don't sit in my office and weep about and have compassion on those in our communities. I do pray for them every single day, don't get me wrong. That's what I do, and that's what I do. But I want us to think about, as a congregation, are we looking around us and having compassion on those who are lost? Are we looking around with understanding that there are people who are hurting and doing evil things and that are out of the will of God and will not see the kingdom of God? Are we a people who look at our communities and see the need for them being saved from the wickedness that's around us? We need to be aware that many are worshiping at the altar of money, that many are worshiping at the altar of sports, drugs, selfishness, laziness, and many other things that draw them away from God. We need to be a people who understand that there are people around us that need compassion and comfort and the understanding of the Word of God and His goodness. Amen? Mark 6:33 through 34 explains this a little bit. As Jesus was out on a boat, it says, many of those who saw him leaving recognized them and ran on foot to the towns and got there ahead of him. And Jesus landed and saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. Jesus came and he saw a crowd, and he saw that they were going around like a sheep without a shepherd, and they needed something. They needed compassion and love, and they needed the good news of Jesus. We need to be a people that see the people around us and that need to be shown compassion of the Father. And guess where that starts? It starts at home. Dad, it starts at home with you, compassion and comfort and understanding the compassion of God and the love of God. Mom, it rolls down and starts with you also in the house of compassion and comfort and the understanding of sharing the good news of Jesus with your households. And it goes from there, it goes into our communities. And it goes into there to our children and to our communities. We need to be a people who have compassion on those who are spiritually sick and need a touch. And how do we do that? Ephesians 4:29 through 32 says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building up others according to their needs, that may benefit those who listen. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, of whom you have sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you. There's a ton here, but I want you to understand it starts with our mouth. It starts with us understanding that we need to be people who speak words of life, that we build up and we encourage, and that we walk in the Holy Spirit and not bitterness, not rage, not anger, but to be kind and to be compassionate. And finally, as we get ready to leave here today, as we close out Father's Day 2019, we talk about compassion and comfort. Colossians 3 says this: therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, with kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgiven you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. As we go out today, church, as we go out and with our families, and as we go on with this week and all that comes with it, I want us to understand that dads, moms, grandpas, grandmas, let's clothe ourselves with compassion. Love your family and love those around you. Don't grow bitter or resentful of what's going on in the world around us, because it's easy to do. remember what's important and what deserves compassion. When we put on compassion and love, it brings unity. And when we have unity, we see growth. Let's be a compassionate church, and let's be a place where we walk in love and joy and share the good news of Jesus with those around us. Because there are people who are hurting in the world around us. Just like in Nineveh, our communities all have hurting people that need Jesus. They need the good news. So let's show compassion, love, and joy, church. As we get ready to close today, let's stand with worship. And I just want to pray over us as we continue with worship. Let's pray. God, we just come before you. We're so thankful for how good you are to us, God. We ask, God, that as we worship you, as we close out today, that you would show us and remind us to be a God of a people of love and a people of compassion. God, we thank you for the compassion and the comfort you've shown us. Bless us as we continue. We thank you, praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Thank you, Lord. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up and mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
God, you are a God of compassion and comfort and joy and love. And God, as we go out of here today, God, let us understand that love and walk in that love. God, help us be a people of compassion. Help us be dads of compassion and comfort. God, we love you. We thank you for how good you are to us. Bless the dads and the moms and everyone here. God, let them have a great week and have a safe week and a great week. God, we love you, give you praise. It's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. And all God's people said, amen. Give God a hand clap. Have a great week, church. See you next week.
That sounds spicy. Yeah, we gotta find something.
up here and then the whole line.
You did all right.
sauces here.